Sam Spinrad here with Buzz Burrell after the 2024 113th Dipsea Race. Thanks for joining me today, Buzz. We're here to learn about what got you into the Dipsea and how your race went this year, finishing a fantastic ninth place and maintaining second, third place throughout much of the race. Please tell us what got you into the race and your story leading up to this year.
Well, I just put, thousands of dollars in cash in an envelope and sent it in. That's what got me into the race. I mean, how does everyone else get in? I don't know.
Especially from Colorado, where you can't beat the speed of the post office in Mill Valley.
Right,
That's
exactly.
tough.
Well, it is kind of interesting. The Dipsea goes back, of course, the oldest trail race in North America. And I've heard about it literally for decades. I've been wanting to do it for a long time. And my son, so I did it last year for the first time. I was in the runners division and I was introduced as Galen's father. It's like, all right, because my
Yeah.
son, Galen Burrell, he's been, black shirt many times. I think he used to do it in under 50 minutes, which I'm not doing. And so with Galen there, I was saying, man, I got to do this sometime. So finally, I got up the energy to get it going last year because it conflicts. I mean, like Mount Washington, the road race is the next weekend and things like that. But I got in finally last year and it was so much fun. I mean, this was so fun. I mean, the course is great. Of course, the camaraderie, the community, the culture is just next level. And in a way, um, can't say I go back at all, but I'm good friends with Dana Fitzpatrick and Tim Fitzpatrick. I've stayed at their house, a decade ago. I used to sponsor Chris Lundy as La Sportiva. So I know a lot of these people. I've just never been there myself. And so I managed to get in last year and managed to win the runners division. So it automatically bumped me up into the invitational this year.
That's awesome. And so what was that experience like last year? Starting the front of the runners section, you don't have the people coming up on your back so quickly at least. And you have all the invitational folks in front of you. Like, were you able to run much of the race alone, or how did that feel, especially compared to this year with the really fast guys, right? Coming up behind you from invitational.
Right. So last year's different because I'm not going to get fast. I mean, I just, yeah, I have this handy little head start, and all the really good runners, they've already started. They're up in
Yeah.
the invitational, and so I'm just going to be passing people. So it's a different vibe, and it's not that hard to pass at that place in the course in the race because I'm passing people or kind of finishing. They're working hard to finish it, and this contrasted dramatically with Galen's description. He'd start as a scratch runner in the Invitational, and that was full on because he's got to pass a few hundred people and he's passing people who are moving pretty quickly, and so it was a little more leisurely for me, to be honest. It was kind of, I'm to say mellow might not be correct, but let's just say it went well and was really fun.
Awesome. And so yeah, now let's jump into this year. We have a handy sort of position chart which I'd like to share, which kind of gives a really nice little breakdown of how the race went for you. So we can see at Windy Gap, so we're past a mile. You're in third position. So you started 2 minutes past that lead head start group. So were you pretty much in the top five or so, like from the beginning? And I see like you held that position for a pretty long time, until you start the at Cardiac, where you have Chris Lundy and then others starting to pass you on the downhill. Like, how was that first uphill section of the race for you?
Right. Well, it was very, it's very different. Um, like I said, I'm 2 minutes behind Diana. The what's it called? The AA. So I'm A wave. So I'm
Yeah, she was AAA, so she
she
had
was triple A
25
and I
minutes.
was single A. So I'm 2 minutes behind her. And by the time we're going through the past the picnic shelter, I've passed all the double A's. I mean, we didn't even get the stairs. I passed them, and it's very odd because there's this person you see on that little chart there, Elena, and so I was catching her right, you know, a mile in, And then all of a sudden it was me and Diana.
Yeah.
It was totally different. All of a sudden I thought of how it must be for her all these years. It's a time trial.
Yeah.
It's completely different. And all of a sudden I'm by myself. I turn around. I can't see anyone. There's no way I can see anyone. And I look forward. I can't see her, but it's just her and I. Her and I are time trialing this course for like 4 or 5 miles. And again, the scratch runners are finally going off, and the fast people are finally going off, and they're busting past people. Trying to imagine passing, on the stairs and these different places. I didn't have that experience at all. My experience is trying to stay focused because I'm all by myself.
Yeah. Yeah, so I see you're 2 minutes behind Diana at Windy Gap, and then once you take second, it has you at 2 minutes behind Still Muir Woods, and then 2 minutes behind Hogsback. So yeah, like not close enough to see her. And then but then at Cardiac, it looks like you were just about caught up with her. And then let's see. Also, it has you and Chris Lundy and Diana all at about the same time at Swoop. So did you see Diana Fitzpatrick at any point, like near the top there?
Well, I'm sorry to mention this, but these numbers are not correct. I mean, I'm sorry. These are good people. They're calling in on their two-way, they're the ham radios and stuff like that, and they're
Yeah.
not remotely accurate. Pardon me, because what is my experience is Diana is Dipsea royalty. Everyone knows her. So at every stage, every section of the course, if there's a spectator, people out hiking, they'd be calling out the time gaps to me. They
Yeah.
say Diana is X, Diana's minute and a half up, Diana's minute and 20. And so, by the time I was coming up on cardiac, the most accurate one is Diana's 71 seconds. So that's the last one I heard. So again, I appreciate this chart, but it's not that accurate. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And
That's
then what
good. So
is accurate is that Chris caught me just after cardiac. I mean, that's my weakness. I don't have pace. The downhills don't phase me a bit. Technical doesn't phase me, but I don't have good turnover. And so once we got on those big buttery single tracks, a nice view of the ocean, Chris just blew by me rather handily. And then other people started coming around. Unfortunately, I think I was still doing pretty well. I think I was running well the whole time.
yeah.
And that Mark was the last guy to catch. Mark ended up finishing eighth. I ended up finishing ninth, and Diana finished seventh. So seventh, eighth, ninth. Never saw Diana at all, by the way. And it's kind of interesting because afterwards I say, "Hey, Mark, nice to finally meet you." He said, you know, your son passed me at the same place I passed you.
Wow.
And a few years ago. So
Yeah.
Mark's a veteran. He's been doing it a lot. Obviously, he had won 2 or 3 years ago or
Yeah.
something.
3 years ago, 21.
Yeah, so Mark's really good. He's a really fast guy. So it's this Dipsea lore is super fun. But as you alluded to, it's such a different experience for Diana and myself. I really sympathize with her because she's time trialing this and she knows that the pack of wolves is coming. I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, she doesn't pass people. It doesn't happen. Same with me. Unless I'm going to catch Dan, I'm not passing him. There's no one to pass. So mostly in a race, I'm a pretty strong endurance type guy. Maybe catching people at the end. I'm not catching anyone at the end of this. Instead, I got these people knocking down 5:30 miles coming at me. So emotionally, it's a very different experience. And I think for us old people, we just have to really stay focused in that middle section of the course. Because once one of those people comes up on us, we're not going to hold them off. Ain't happening.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and they say like you have to run every section super hard because the seconds you're losing in the first couple miles of the race could be those crucial seconds at the end of the race where there's nothing you can do about that person who's made up that time. So such a
Correct.
different race dynamic. Is there any, I mean, you've raced all over the place in all sorts of formats. Have you experienced anything like this in terms of format or anything anywhere?
I don't think there's anything like this. Maybe, like I said, I've been all over. I'm going back to the Alps for 7 weeks again this summer. I, races a couple of years. They're going to do about 30. So this see anywhere. Maybe it'd be interesting to hear about something like that, but no, no. One of the reasons you want to do the Dipsea is because of its incredible age gender handicap system, where it is well done, by the way. I mean, you could maybe some people complain. I haven't heard anyone complain. I think who's ever doing this is really works at these equations and they balance them out. So if you look at the top 10, the top 20, whatever, they're coming from all different divisions, all different ages, all different genders. And so they've got it worked out so that everyone has an equal chance. And you get an outlier like Chris Lundy, who's just really good. It's not an unfair advantage. She's just really good. And I think everyone says, yeah, well, Chris is good. And then she gets a 1 minute penalty next year. So I think it's a fantastic system. What surprises me, Sam, is why other people haven't copied the Dipsea.
Yeah.
This is so good. Why don't they just say, let's do a Dipsea in New England or wherever? It's a fantastic system. And so anyone listening out there, I think the Dipsea should be copied and there should be more races with this format elsewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, I aspire to do so someday in New England.
Oh,
There was an attempt in North Carolina, and Alex Varner, who has 9 best time awards in the Dipsea, actually came out for the maiden running of the Medoc Spring Races. It's in North Carolina. I believe it's been discontinued. It's been a few years, I think, since they've held one.
hmm.
But they came, I think, somewhat close to being able to replicate some of the aspects of the race. Like it's a cross country format, and they I think in one of the first years a woman in her 50s or 60s won, so like clearly they were able to handicap it so that it wasn't too overdone. Like I think that after her were a bunch of fast guys like Alex Varner. But yeah, it's definitely, it's not just, I think, replicating the formats, that the handicapper has to know the course and know, what, not just take this one outlier like Chris Lundy, or like the Dipsea legends of old, Russ Kiernan, Shirley Matson, Meldianne Schultz, who completely redid everything. Like people thought about, aging into their 60s. Like you have to really like consider, okay, what's an outlier performance and what is this kind of standard, typical like decent runner, how is their aging process, and how do we handicap for that. So yeah, I think that's really awesome that we had representation this year in the 70s. And we had Tatum in the 60s, and then the winner in the 50s, and it's a really nice spread. So I
I
usually ask
agree.
a question. I usually ask a question at the end about either what are your future Dipsea aspirations, or any Dipsea heroes of yours. And like I imagine that after finishing in the top 10, that you'd like to come back again at least and get another single digit black shirt. And next year you have another handicap minute. So that's awesome.
Probably, but I wasn't really so sure about that actually, Sam, because there's another race in northern Michigan, a triathlon,
Oh yeah.
where it's a run, bike, paddle, and it's super scenic. It's in Sleeping Bear National Lakeshore on the same weekend. So I'm going, man, what about that? But then what you just said is true. I'm going to get another minute, and so another minute, ego. Oh well, gee, I got another minute here, and I think I might get another minute the next year. Dan is tapped out. She's as far as she could go. So it's yeah, it's super fun. The culture of the community, the people, the course. So I'm not 100%, but I'm certainly attracted to all of the above.
Awesome. Well, I know that they'd love to have you back, and yeah, no, it's really exciting to have some of the older talent competing against some of the younger talent in the front there. And when you have these pretty late in the race passes, like what happened this year, like uh, the Diana holding the lead with you close behind for that long, like that makes for an exciting race.
Yeah,
Um,
it was just her and I time trialing for like 4 miles.
it's so unique for sure. Anyway, I want to thank you. I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you for telling folks about your Dipsea race this year, and Well, definitely, we're looking forward to seeing what you do next year, and the year after. You're coming up on maxing your handicap minutes, so if not next year, maybe in a future year, and maybe winning the family trophy with Galen.
Oh yeah, now
Definitely be
that would bring me back in a second. If Galen's in, I'm in.
awesome. Thank you again for speaking with me tonight, Buzz.
Well, Sam, I would like to make a point of thanking everyone involved. I mean, it's all about volunteers. Without volunteers, there's nothing. So let me go very clearly on record to thank everybody who's putting on this terrific event. Thank you very, very much.
For sure. I echo that.